In 2023, Tet Stevens Anchorage International Airport moved 3.38 million metric tons of cargo, more than Frankfurt, more than Los Angeles, more than any airport in the Western Hemisphere except Memphis. But Anchorage makes nothing, exports almost nothing, has no major consumer metropolis nearby. The entire city has fewer residents than Fresno, California. All that volume exists for a single reason. Planes land there to refuel halfway between Asia and the Americas. One service, one function, one reason to exist. And this model already collapsed once before and nearly took the airport down with it. The airport's deputy director has a name for the mechanism that holds everything together. She calls it the Payload equation. As long as that equation works, Anchorage exists. When it stops working, the story changes entirely. So the question nobody is asking out loud is, what happens when planes no longer need to stop? Tet Stevens International Airport has ranked among the 5 busiest cargo airports on the planet for over a decade. In 2022, it reached 3rd place globally, surpassing Shanghai Pudong. To put that in perspective, the airport processes more tonnage per year than every airport in Brazil combined. Roughly 80% of the airport's operating revenue comes from cargo aircraft in transit, not from local exports, not from imports for Alaskan consumers, from planes that land, refuel, swap crews, and take off without a single box being opened for a local end customer. No other airport in the global top 10 has a dependency profile even close to this. Hong Kong exports semiconductors and electronics. Memphis is the beating heart of FedEx. Louisville is UPS's global hub. Anchorage is a gas station stop, the busiest gas station in the world, but a gas station nonetheless. And the paradox is precise. The more cargo flows through Anchorage, the more the airport doubles down on this single model. More infrastructure is built to serve transiting freighters. More of the city depends on that revenue. Success deepens the vulnerability. Today, we're going to examine why Anchorage may be building its own ending. We'll look at the economic logic that holds this model together and why it's more fragile than it appears. We'll examine the moment this model already collapsed in the 1990s and what that episode reveals about the risks ahead. And we'll understand the threat arriving now, this time not from geopolitics, but from factories in Seattle and Toulouse. Anchorage's real operational secret isn't in any official report. It's in a single sentence from the airport's own deputy director, Trudy Wassel. They can take more cargo, less fuel, so that's why they land here. The logic works like this. A freighter departing Hong Kong bound for cities on the U.S. East Coast must carry enough fuel to fly over 12,000 kilometers. Fuel weighs. Every ton of jet fuel in the tank is a ton of merchandise left on the ground. The payload equation is brutally simple. If the plane splits the route into 2 legs with a stop in Anchorage, it takes off twice with smaller tanks and carries significantly more cargo on each leg. Second mechanism. Anchorage operates as a redistribution node. U.S. legislation grants the airport a unique privilege. Foreign carriers can transfer cargo between aircraft from different operators in Anchorage without requiring special authorization from the Department of Transportation. This right, established in 1996, does not exist at any other airport in the contiguous 48 states. It is a regulatory advantage built on a geographic exception. Third mechanism, crew rotation. International regulations cap pilot flight hours. A technical stop in Anchorage allows carriers to swap crews, reset the hour counter, and continue operating without regulatory interruption. More than 300 hotel rooms in Anchorage are regularly occupied by rotating freighter crews. What looks like an unnecessary layover on a map is, in practice, an operational maintenance point for a global supply chain. What the airlines don't advertise is that Anchorage isn't on these routes because it's convenient. It's there because it's profitable. That distinction changes everything when the equation starts to shift. In 1991, Soviet airspace was open to Western commercial aviation. Within 4 years, routes that had been required to stop in Anchorage found direct shortcuts over Siberia. During the same period, the Boeing 747-400 was entering global service, with significantly greater range than previous generations. Between 1991 and 1995, passenger traffic in Anchorage collapsed. Airlines that had maintained regular stopovers simply canceled them. The model that had sustained the airport for decades became obsolete in less than one management cycle. The airport survived because it found a substitute, the Trans-Pacific cargo market, which at the time still justified technical stopovers and benefited from the 1996 regulatory advantage. The reinvention was real, but it was never planned in advance. It was an emergency adaptation to a crisis that had already arrived. But this time, the stakes are higher. The threat isn't coming from an unpredictable geopolitical shift. It's coming from aircraft already on production lines, with announced delivery dates and signed orders from operators that use Anchorage today. The warning is sitting in the industry's own order book for anyone willing to read it. Anchorage's official response has been to grow deeper into the model it already knows. In 2024, the airport announced the arrival of 5 new cargo carriers, with 4.9% growth in fiscal years between 2023 and 2024. The Alaska state government projected an additional 2% growth for 2025. The official narrative is one of continuous expansion. But there is a revealing detail buried in the airport's own communications. The infrastructure being expanded is designed to accommodate more Boeing 747 freighters, an aircraft based on a design over 50 years old that is being phased out of production. The 747F production line closes in 2027 over emissions requirements. Anchorage is, in part, building capacity for planes the market is retiring. The long-term bet is the Arctic hub concept, the idea that melting Arctic ice will open new shipping and air routes that make Alaska even more central to global trade. It's a geographically defensible thesis, but it has a timing problem. Arctic routes are a decades-long bet, while the technological threats operate on a timeline of years. The Airbus A350F, with a range of 8,700 kilometers and a payload of 111 metric tons, has 82 confirmed orders from 13 operators, including Singapore Airlines Cargo, Cathay Cargo, and Korean Air. First deliveries 2027. These are precisely the carriers that currently make technical stops in Anchorage, now signing contracts for aircraft that will require fewer intermediate landings. The vulnerability of this bet is that temporal asymmetry. The promising future is far away. The concrete threat is already on approach. The Boeing 777-8F, the freighter variant of the 777X program, is scheduled for first deliveries in 2028. With a range of 8,167 kilometers and a maximum payload of 118 metric tons, 25% more fuel efficient than the 747-400F it replaces, it was designed specifically to reduce the need for technical stops on long-range routes. Qatar Airways has signed for up to 50 units. Cargolux and Lufthansa Cargo are in the queue. The asymmetry is structural. The carriers that today profit from using Anchorage as a refueling hub are the same ones signing contracts for the aircraft that will reduce that dependency. This isn't sabotage, it's economic optimization. And money alone won't solve this problem, because the problem isn't a lack of infrastructure in Anchorage, it's physics applied to the economics of air freight. When an A350F or 777-8F can cover trans-Pacific routes with fewer stops than today's 747 requires, the payload equation Trudy Wassel describes begins to reverse, and the same cycle that nearly destroyed the airport in 1991, technology making the stopover unnecessary, will be back, this time without a ready substitute waiting in the wings. Anchorage built one of the most unusual airport models in the world: massive volume, zero industrial base, total dependence on a single service. It worked for 3 decades. It may work for a while longer. But the airport is betting everything on the continuity of an equation that the next generation of aircraft is actively rewriting, and the official plan offers no alternative scenario for when that equation changes. There is no documented Plan B. There are growth projections built on the assumption that planes will always need to stop in Anchorage. History showed once that assumption can be wrong, and this time the warning arrived early. If you want to understand the real money moving global air cargo, subscribe for more analysis. Until next time.